Once I knock out Mike Perry, Conor McGregor, let's run it. But you won't do it because you know what's going to happen. You saw what I did to Nate Diaz, who you went toe-to-toe with. So Conor McGregor, lay off the cocaine, get in the gym, and start winning fights, and then maybe we can have a conversation.
Jake Paul is once again stirring the pot, doing what he does best, keeping his name trending through spectacle and controversy. This time, he's taken things a step further by publicly calling out none other than Conor McGregor, challenging the former UFC double champion to a boxing match slated for May of next year. In a video that quickly made the rounds on social media, Paul didn't just issue the challenge, he went all in, mocking McGregor with calculated disrespect, clearly aiming to provoke a reaction. But let's not pretend this is some groundbreaking moment in combat sports. This is textbook Jake Paul. His game plan is painfully transparent. Target fading legends with name recognition to pad his own resume and manufacture hype around his so-called rise in the sport. We've seen it before when he lured Mike Tyson, who, let's be honest, is closer in age to being Paul's father than his peer, into the ring. And now, Paul's setting his sights on McGregor, a fighter who hasn't notched a major victory in years and whose best days may already be behind him. Whether this fight materializes or not, Paul's latest move continues his pattern of leveraging nostalgia, controversy, and celebrity to stay center stage in the fight world.
Jake Paul made the call-out video. He disrespected Conor McGregor.
Naturally, Jake Paul isn't about to step into the ring with someone in their prime that would actually require courage, discipline, and the willingness to take a real risk. Why would he jeopardize his undefeated record against a legitimate opponent when he can continue cherry-picking fighters whose best years are long behind them? It's become his trademark move, chase clout, not competition. The entire strategy reeks of cowardice disguised as confidence. If Jake were truly serious about proving he belongs in the boxing world, he'd challenge someone his own age, in peak physical condition, with comparable experience and strength. But of course, that wouldn't fit his carefully curated narrative. That wouldn't guarantee viral views or control over the script. Instead, we're once again watching the same tired performance, Jake avoiding real threats while hyping up matchups that barely count. This time, he's targeting Conor McGregor, yes, that Conor McGregor. The one whose last significant victory came back in 2021, and whose career has since become a patchwork of injuries, drama, and unfulfilled hype. And yet, Jake delivers the news of this supposed super fight as if he's announcing a cure for cancer. The smugness with which he positions himself, acting like he's offering McGregor some kind of career revival gift, is beyond delusional. His arrogance is matched only by his absurd sense of importance, wrapped up in a marketing machine that runs on manufactured drama and YouTube thumbnails. And because nothing Jake Paul does can be simple or sincere, the proposed fight location? India, in 2025. Yes, really. As if the matchup itself weren't already bizarre enough, now we're adding an exotic venue into the mix, presumably to maximize headlines and Instagram engagement. It's not about the sport, the legacy, or even the fans. It's about the spectacle. The bigger the distraction, the better. Jake's ego demands nothing less than global attention, even if it means turning combat sports into a sideshow act. And so, we're left once again watching the circus unfold, another day, another desperate, cringe-worthy attempt by the internet's least respected boxer to stay relevant.
Jake Paul training with professional boxers, essentially being a professional boxer, but getting in the ring with non-boxers or geriatrics. He's not.
And then there's ESPN's Sal Vendor, the so-called journalist who decided to toss gasoline on an already blazing fire with a tweet that sent social media into total meltdown mode. In what felt like a calculated move designed to stir every pot on the internet, Sal Vendor boldly claimed that Jake Paul vs. Conor McGregor is officially being eyed for July, August, or maybe even September of 2025. And where, you ask, is this spectacle allegedly going down? India. Of course. Because when you've got a bizarre, borderline pointless matchup that feels more like a parody of combat sports than the real thing, the only way to top it off is with a random international location that makes zero logistical sense but sounds just exotic enough to sell headlines. The whole thing reads like the fever dream of a hype merchant, not a legitimate fight announcement. And yet, Vendor's tweet did exactly what it was designed to do. It exploded across Twitter like fireworks on New Year's Eve. Within minutes, it was everywhere. Fans argued, critics fumed, trolls had a field day, and meme lords went into overdrive. The post was liked, shared, dissected, and reimagined 1,000 different ways. But what made the tweet truly diabolical was how masterfully vague it was. No confirmation. No solid sources. Just enough ambiguity to keep the speculation boiling. Whether Sal Vendor is a media mastermind orchestrating chaos or just another pawn in the never-ending Jake Paul PR machine doesn't even matter anymore. What matters is he succeeded in doing the one thing Jake Paul needs most, keeping him in the headlines. Let's not fool ourselves, this was never about boxing. This is about grabbing attention by the throat and refusing to let go, and Jake has proven time and again that he's a genius at it. But let's rewind for a moment and talk about how Jake Paul even got to this point of self-appointed superstardom. Remember his so-called historic victory over Mike Tyson? Yes, Jake had the audacity to climb into the ring with a 58-year-old man and parade around afterward like he'd just dethroned Muhammad Ali. The entire match felt like a forced publicity stunt, designed more for TikTok clips and viral thumbnails than actual boxing fans. Predictably, the judges gave Jake a unanimous decision, but anyone with eyes and an ounce of common sense knew the real story. Tyson was 3 decades past his prime, and Jake still looked like he was struggling to dominate. But that didn't stop him from puffing out his chest, spinning up his delusions, and posting victory laps across every social platform known to man. Jake's entire approach to that Tyson fight was as transparent as his social media strategy. He didn't need to beat the Real Iron Mike, he just had to survive without getting flattened and then act like he'd just climbed Mount Everest. Cue the training montages. Push-ups, awkward sparring sessions, dramatic slow-motion shots of sweat dripping during workouts.
He just get in the ring. He's on Twitter, he's on his yacht, he's on cocaine, but he's not in the ring with me.
From a financial standpoint, the proposed Jake Paul vs. Conor McGregor fight makes undeniable sense, and honestly, that's the only reason it's even being entertained. Strip away the hype, the headlines, and the endless social media banter, and you're left with one simple truth: this matchup is a cash grab, pure and simple. Jake Paul has never hidden the blueprint to his career. His entire rise to fame has been built not on skill, not on competition, but on controversy. He monetizes mayhem, spins drama into dollars, and turns every eyebrow-raising call-out into a business opportunity. The formula is simple but effective: the bigger the opponent's name, the louder the public outcry, and the fatter the payday. Jake Paul has mastered that game like no one else in modern boxing. But let's be very clear, none of this has anything to do with pushing himself forward as a legitimate athlete. This is not a journey of athletic evolution or professional growth. Jake Paul's version of boxing is a carnival act, dodging genuine threats, cherry-picking aging icons, and wrapping it all in a slick PR package that masks the lack of real danger inside the ring. And who better to join him on this spectacle than Conor McGregor, the former face of the UFC who now teeters on the edge of complete irrelevance. There was a time when McGregor was untouchable, an Irish whirlwind of confidence, skill, and swagger who could light up arenas and send opponents packing with a single left hand. He was a global icon, a crossover superstar who brought MMA into the mainstream. But that Conor is gone, replaced by a man seemingly more interested in product launches and Twitter tirades than in actual competition. These days, you're more likely to see him promoting whiskey or firing off tone-deaf, cringe-worthy posts online than stepping into a meaningful fight. His legacy has become a shadow of its former self. Something fans cling to out of nostalgia rather than current relevance. Let's not forget the moment that marked the beginning of this downward spiral. In 2021, McGregor faced Dustin Poirier in a high-stakes UFC bout, and what followed wasn't just a defeat, it was a catastrophe. Midway through the fight, Conor suffered a gruesome leg break, collapsing in the octagon in what would become a defining image of his career's decline. It wasn't just the physical injury that stung, it was the fact that, for the first time, his signature trash talk and psychological warfare couldn't save him. He looked broken, not just in body but in spirit. Since that night, McGregor has been largely absent from competitive fighting, opting instead for brand-building ventures and occasional social media theatrics. In truth, this potential bout with Jake Paul is less about redemption and more about cashing one last check. McGregor knows he's no longer the lethal striker who once dismantled Jose Aldo in 13 seconds or took Nate Diaz to the brink in a legendary rematch. He knows his chances of reclaiming UFC dominance. Fast forward to the present, and Conor McGregor's long-anticipated comeback doesn't involve storming back into the UFC octagon, reclaiming titles, or silencing doubters with a thunderous knockout. No, his return to the spotlight is taking shape through exhibition matches, carefully orchestrated, low-risk bouts designed not to test his skill but to protect what little remains of his fighting reputation. Let's call it what it really is: damage control disguised as competition. These matchups aren't about glory or legacy, they're about maximum payout with minimum danger. McGregor, once a ferocious warrior known for his fearlessness and elite precision, is now carefully picking opponents like he's navigating a minefield. He's dodging legitimate fighters like they carry contagion, all while keeping the cameras rolling and the money flowing. It's as if he's trying to rewrite the final chapter of his career without putting his chin or pride on the line. And right on cue, into this bizarre modern circus enters Jake Paul, the YouTuber turned boxing entrepreneur who seems to have built his entire brand on calling out fading legends. Say what you will about Jake, but the man knows exactly how to insert himself into any conversation that involves controversy, big names, or viral potential. Without missing a beat, Jake launched yet another public challenge aimed squarely at McGregor, loud, cocky, and dripping with the kind of artificial bravado that has become his trademark. But this time, something different happened: nothing. No response. No Instagram rebuttal. No cryptic tweet filled with emojis and whiskey-fueled bravado. Just complete and utter silence from McGregor. And that silence? It speaks volumes. Either Conor understands how ridiculous this whole charade truly is, or he's simply too preoccupied mapping out his next brand campaign, reality show appearance, or courtroom defense strategy. Should McGregor actually accept Jake's challenge, it becomes a high-risk gamble masquerading as a payday. Sure, the check will be massive, millions guaranteed, but the cost might be far greater than money can mend. Because if he steps into the ring and loses to Jake Paul, a man still viewed by many as a gimmick in boxing gloves, it wouldn't just be another L on his record. It would be the final, irreversible collapse of a once untouchable legacy. The final blow that cements his transformation from legendary fighter to internet meme. On the other hand, turning down the fight doesn't come without consequences either. He sidesteps the circus, yes, but also walks away from one of the last few opportunities he has to remain relevant in a combat sports landscape that's already started to move on without him. In either scenario, McGregor is cornered by his own legacy, haunted by past greatness and surrounded by present irrelevance. The truth is, Conor McGregor. The man who once had fans hanging on his every word and opponents shaking at his every stare, has now become better KN.
Conor McGregor just tweeted at me because of this interview.
He has to get active again. You know, who knows when that's going to happen.
These are his tweets, and here's my response. Conor. You're more active on Twitter than you are in the octagon. Stop taking Trenbolone and start taking fights. You're more actively cheating on your wife than you are in the octagon. Your priorities are mixed up. Put down the bottle and get back to fighting. You haven't won a fight in 5 fucking years, and the last time you did was against Cowboy Cerrone, who hasn't won a fight against anyone since fighting you. I'm a nobody, you say in this tweet. Well, yeah, you're right. I'm just a fucking kid from Ohio. I really am a nobody, but this is where you fought your 6th fight.
There's literally 2 people in the crowd.
And this is where I'm going to be fighting my 6th fight. Madison Square Garden, the mecca of boxing. August 6th. I know you'll be watching, kiddo.
Now let's take a step back and talk about what this fight, Jake Paul versus Conor McGregor, would actually mean for the world of combat sports. Spoiler alert, absolutely nothing of real value. In fact, it would likely do more harm than good. This isn't a clash of titans, a battle for legacy, or even a legitimate athletic contest. It's spectacle over substance, hype over honor, and drama over discipline. Boxing purists would recoil in disgust, MMA fans would roll their eyes in collective frustration, and the only crowd that might show up enthusiastically are the casual viewers who care more about memes than mechanics. For them, it's not about the jabs or the footwork, it's about the viral clips, the trash talk, and the inevitable internet chaos. Jake Paul isn't trying to uplift boxing, he's turning it into a content farm. And Conor McGregor? He's more interested in padding his wallet than returning to form as a world-class fighter. The fight itself would be little more than a glorified sparring match, dressed up in the grandiose language of once-in-a-lifetime spectacle. From the walkouts to the weigh-ins to the post-fight press conferences, it would all be an elaborately staged production, an event tailor-made for engagement metrics rather than sporting integrity. The punches would be real, sure, but the stakes? Manufactured. There would be no titles on the line, no rankings affected, and no real consequences. Just two fading stars putting on a show to keep the cameras on and the cash flowing. Let's talk about Jake Paul's so-called boxing career, if we're generous enough to call it that. His entire presence in the sport has been a masterclass in gimmickry, built on smoke, mirrors, and a relentless pursuit of viral fame. Recently, he made headlines once again by announcing his retirement from influencer boxing, a term so vague and unserious it sounds like a bad punchline. He then claimed to be shifting focus toward professional bouts, as if one self-declared title makes him the next Canelo Alvarez. But let's not kid ourselves, Jake Paul is as much a professional boxer as a guy with a telescope is an astronomer. His training may be serious, but his matchmaking is laughably safe. He's never faced a hungry, ranked, in their prime fighter. Instead, he targets aging legends, former athletes, and other celebrities who bring more clout than challenge. His persona is built on chaos, carefully curated chaos. Every press conference, every post-fight meltdown, every viral call-out is a piece of content designed to trend. He doesn't just fight, he stages events. And while he claims to be in it for the love of the sport, his real motivation is written all over his bank statements. The upcoming bout with McGregor, should it ever materialize, isn't about testing his skills. It's about inflating his brand, hijacking headlines, and turning another moment into a money-making machine. And no matter what happens in the ring, win or lose, Jake will spin the outcome like SA.
Look, Conor is not what he once was. And so even beating him, it still looks good on somebody's resume.
Make no mistake, it will be a trilogy fight down the line. It won't be straight away, but we will do it 3 times, 100%.
And so, here we are, front row spectators to one of the most bizarre, slow-motion circuses in modern combat sports. What once might have been considered a dream fight in some alternate timeline has now devolved into a sideshow fueled by nostalgia, ego, and digital noise. Conor McGregor, once a fearsome warrior who embodied grit, skill, and charisma, has become little more than a faded echo of his former self. The man who used to conquer the UFC with precision and swagger now feels more like a tabloid fixture than a fighter. His punches have been replaced with product placements, and his legendary bravado has been reduced to background noise in a sea of irrelevance. Then there's Jake Paul, the viral provocateur, the self-made meme machine, the internet's most profitable instigator. He's not just surviving off controversy, he's thriving on it. Chaos isn't a side effect of his career, it's the main ingredient. Every outrageous quote, every Twitter spat, every carefully edited training clip is part of a larger strategy to hijack headlines and dominate feeds. Whether you love him or loathe him, Jake Paul understands one thing better than most: in the digital era, attention is currency, and he's printing money by the truckload. And in the middle of this storm, you have media figures like Sal Vendor, tossing just enough fuel onto the fire to keep it from dying out. A cryptic tweet here, a vague update there, no confirmation, just speculation, and boom, the internet is in flames again. Whether this fight ever actually happens is almost beside the point now. The mere idea of it has already caused irreparable damage to the integrity of combat sports. Boxing purists, MMA loyalists, and athletes who have spent their lives grinding for a shot at greatness all lose in this scenario. What they built through sweat and sacrifice is slowly being overshadowed by clickbait bouts and social media theater. Meanwhile, Jake Paul strolls straight to the bank, smiling the whole way, because for him, it was never about the fight. It's about the headlines. It's about staying in the spotlight. It's about manipulating the moment for maximum exposure. And let's be honest, he's doing it better than anyone else right now.
Conor McGregor calls out Jake Paul for the next boxing fight. Here it is.
Make a new name for yourself. Look at what has happened to Michael Perry. You know, one of our big stars here, the king of violence. He titles himself, and you know he's had such a rise in the sport. Now he's up against you know, a little dweeb of a thing in a fight this weekend that we're all rooting for him.
And yet, somehow, we're still here. Still watching. Still engaging. Like rubberneckers passing a car crash on the highway, we can't seem to look away, even as we grimace at what we're seeing. Jake Paul, a man who has perfected the art of being unapologetically insufferable, is pitching us a fight that no one truly asked for, yet almost everyone will probably tune in to witness. Not out of excitement, but out of sheer morbid curiosity. It's not about anticipation anymore, it's about spectacle. And whether this matchup ever makes it past the Twitterverse and into an actual ring, one thing is certain: Jake Paul will squeeze every last ounce of relevance and revenue out of the hype. Because for Jake, the sport itself is just the stage. The real performance is in the build-up, the chaos, the reactions. And as long as people are watching, even through gritted teeth, he wins. The fans may be exhausted. The athletes may be insulted. The purists may weep for what boxing and MMA have become. But Jake? He'll keep laughing, keep posting, keep stirring, and keep collecting checks. In the theater of manufactured madness, he's not just a player, he's the director.